really know what to talk about. And it hit me a little while later that I would just tell my Aflac story. That's all I've ever told. And so for those of you who were in that regional meeting, this is a repeat, so y'all can, take a bathroom break or whatever you want to do. But my Aflac story began in 1998. Some of you know my Aflac story very, very well. Some of you know part of my Aflac story, and some of you have never laid eyes on me before, don't know who I am, know nothing about my Aflac story. And so that's what I'm going to share with you this evening. When I started with Aflac back in 1998, I was a single mom. I had been a single mom for about 2.5 years at that point, and I was my children's sole source of support. They were 3 and 5 at the time. And I was looking for a career change. I was looking for something where what I did on a daily basis really made a difference in people's lives. I was looking for something that I could make good income at because I was my children's sole source of support. And I was looking for something where I could have time to be a parent because I was my children's only parent. And I answered a blind ad in the newspaper. Back then, that's how you looked for a job. You went to the newspaper. And I submitted my resume, and I didn't hear anything. And I didn't know it at the time, but many years after I started with Aflac, I found out that the regional sales coordinator at the time looked at my resume and declined to interview me because he said I would never be successful with the company. Well, about a month and a half later, I saw the same blind ad in the newspaper, and I submitted my resume once again. This time, it fell into the hands of a district sales coordinator by the name of Donna Jackson, and Donna decided to interview me. I went for my interview, and I will never forget it. I was so impressed with her. I was so impressed with the company. I had never heard of the company Aflac before. I got home from that interview and I called my mother. And I said, yeah, I just interviewed with some outfit called Aflac. And she went, oh. And I said, what? She said, the cancer company. And I said, are they the ones? 5 years earlier, in 1993, my mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer. She had a plan at the time. And the money that my mother and daddy collected from that cancer policy really made a difference in their ability to support themselves during that time. And so when my mother said that, it was a light bulb moment for me, because I knew that this was a company that I could represent. I knew that it was a product that I could sell, because I knew what it had done for my own family. And so thus launched my Aflac career back in 1998. I won't sugarcoat it. It was not easy. It was hard. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. I put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work. And I wanted to quit 100,000 times. But God saw fit to bless my efforts. And I have had a wonderful career with Aflac. I started as an associate in '98. I became a district sales coordinator in 2001. I became a regional sales coordinator in 2002. And I remained in that position for 12 years until 2014. And in 2014, my life was turned upside down. I got married that year, which after 19 years of being a single mom, it was about time. I moved out of my house that I had lived in for almost 20 years, and that was pretty traumatic. And about 6 weeks after my husband and I got married, he was in a terrible car accident. He was on his way to work one morning, just like we all do. Every single morning, we get in our cars and we go. He was sitting at a red light, just like we all do every single day. A young kid says he fell asleep at the wheel. Whether it's true or not, we'll never know. He may have been texting. but officers estimate that he hit my husband doing about 50 miles per hour. There was a car that was at the red light in front of my husband. All three cars were totaled. My husband bore the brunt of the impact, and it left him with a broken back. And those activities of daily living that you learn about when you're going through insurance class, studying for your licensing exam, my husband couldn't perform hardly any of those. He couldn't transfer from a bed to a chair without assistance. He couldn't get back into bed without assistance. He couldn't toilet. He couldn't bathe. About the only thing that he could do is he could, once we got him to a chair, use his arm to eat. And so he required 24/7 care for just about 2 months. He was actually off work 11 months due to that injury. The really bad thing about that story is that in all the hullabaloo of getting married, moving my household, I was moving stuff out of the regional office at the time, I was my own worst agent, and I did not update my Aflac policies. And so instead of coming home from the hospital to file a claim, I came home from the hospital and added him to all of my Aflac policies. In the 10th month of his disability, he went into the doctor for a routine colonoscopy. The doctor came out when it was done and said, you know, a couple of polyps, we got them out. But there was this one suspect place that I couldn't take out. He's going to have surgery. And I was able to get a biopsy, and we've sent it off. And we were like, well, okay. And we scheduled surgery for the next week. In the meantime, the pathology report comes back, and lo and behold, he had early stages of colon cancer. So they went ahead and did the surgery the next week, and again, we were very blessed. He only needed the surgery, no further treatment necessary. I came home that time from the hospital and filed a claim. And it was actually my first experience with one-day pay. And Aflac did exactly what Aflac says it will do. And within 24 hours, Aflac had cut a check for our $10,000 initial diagnosis benefit. After about a month, he was ready to go back to work. His colon was ready, but his back wasn't. He only made it about 2 weeks back at work, and he had to go on disability again. And this time he was off for about a month and a half, and he went through a lot of intensive physical therapy during that time. And so in July of 2015, he went back to work for good. At this point, we had been married 15 months. He had only worked about 8 weeks out of those 15 months. Things rocked along very well from July of 2015 until March of 2016. And in March of 2016, I'll never forget it, I was in the kitchen on a Sunday afternoon, and he called me into the living room. And he began to describe to me what I knew were the symptoms of a stroke. And we ended up at the hospital, and sure enough, he had had a stroke. He had a blood clot in the back right hemisphere of his brain. And we were at the hospital for a couple of days while they ran all kinds of tests and got him situated on blood thinners. And when we got home, I filed a claim. And again, Aflac did exactly what Aflac said they will do. And they paid our claim on our critical care and recovery policy. Again, we were very, very blessed because he was only off work for a little bit over a month. And within a month, all of the residual symptoms of his stroke has subsided. And he was back at work. And I'm pleased to report he saw his neurologist last week. He was able to come off of a blood thinner. They said, "You're great, don't come back for a year." And so, as I look back across that whole Aflac story, what I realize is that Aflac has been there for me every single step of the way. Whether it was as a new associate, struggling to start a new career and make a success at it, or whether it was most recently as a claimant, Aflac has done exactly what they always said they would do. Another way that Aflac has been there with me every step of the way is through my renewal income. Because my renewal income allowed me, through this 2.5-year period, to stay home and take care of my family when I needed to be home. And if I had been at a W-2 job, I would have had to quit. And it's just that simple. As I think back about my Aflac story, what I realize is that every single one of you in this room tonight has an Aflac story. It may be only a paragraph. It may be a short story because you haven't been with the company very long. It may be a novel, or it may be a 4-part miniseries like I've got. But whatever your Aflac story is, tell it. Tell it. I encourage you to tell it. Because somebody out there needs to hear your Aflac story. They don't need to hear mine. They don't need to hear Brent's. They don't need to hear Brandon's. They need to hear your story. Because there's somebody out there that's looking for a career change like I was back in 1998. There is somebody out there that's going to need our products on down the road, just like my family has. And if you don't tell the story, it may never be heard. And so that's my story, and that's my encouragement to you. We have a wonderful opportunity in 2017 to make it the best year that we've ever had, collectively as a state and individually. Each one of you has an opportunity to tell that story over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's how we make our money. So I want to thank Brent for the opportunity to share this story with you. I love this company. I love what this company has done for me and for my family. And I wish all of you a very, very successful 2017. Thank you.